Hi everyone, I'm Andy Harrington and I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Foodgrains Bank.
And I'm Lillian Scorrar-Olsen, and I'm a member of the Primate's World Relief and Development Fund, and I sit on the board, and I'm also the representative for my church, Christ Church, Amherstburg.
And this is Get to Know Your Canadian Foodgrains Bank member. So welcome, Lillian, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Lillian, tell us a little bit about the work of PWRDF.
So PWRDF, or Primate's World Relief and Development Fund, is the Anglican Church of Canada's agency for sustainable development and relief. So the organization believes in uplifting and supporting their partner organizations, and together they work towards reducing gender inequality. They help to relieve hunger, and they increase maternal, child, and newborn health. And the best part is they help to break the cycle of poverty.
Which is a wonderful thing that we're all involved in. So yes. Glad to hear that your work and what you're doing as part of the Foodgrains Bank as well. So I know you've visited places as part of the work of PWRDF. Tell us about a memorable visit you've had.
Sure. So my memorable visit was in 2018 when I was able to go on a learning tour with Canadian Foodgrains Bank as the PWRDF representative, and we went to Malawi, Africa. And for me, it was life-changing. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it was a life-changing experiences. And for me, one of the most memorable things was, it was actually one of the first days when we got there, and we were able to go to a local village that just had experienced a devastating drought. And that was right after having flooding. So their fields had failed to yield crops, and it was just devastating for that village. And they were facing starvation. And so we broke out into groups, and we were able to sit down with families and talk to them one-on-one and really get to know what happened and why, they were in trouble and everything like that. And my person was a single mom, and she was divorced. And in Malawi, the man takes everything. They take all the money, they take all of the property, and what the woman gets is the children. So she had to leave that village, take her 5 children, and go to her hometown. And she was lucky enough to get housing from her uncle and a little piece of land to farm. But unfortunately, because of the drought and flooding, she didn't have any crops, and she was so worried that she wasn't going to be able to feed her family. And so she never lost faith. And what was the best part was she said, God answered my prayer because Canadian Foodgrains Bank came and they provided food aid. Her thing was not even just feeding herself and her family. It was the ability to then know that she could provide food for her family so that her kids could go to school. And that was the biggest thing for me, was just so eye-opening that, we think it's just a simple bag of grain, but to them it is life-changing. It was their ability to send their kids to school so that their kids could have food, have an education, and it just was uplifting. So for me, that was a wonderful experience, and I'll never forget that.
I can totally see why. That must have been incredibly inspirational. And what a wonderful story. What a wonderful woman from the sound of it as well. That's a hard situation to be in sometimes when you're faced with the reality of what poverty looks like for some of the people we work with. And coming from a Christian response from hunger, is there a verse that you kind of hold on to when you think about the difficulties of women like that and others who are facing hunger?
The verse that I hold on to when I think about food insecurity and hunger is John 6, chapters 1, verses 14. So that's the story of the loaves and the fishes. It reminds me of how generosity can grow. So a lot of people believe that their contributions to hunger and food insecurity and even large scale issues like that, they're just too small. It doesn't matter. In the loaves and the fishes, it shows you that God's act of love and compassion can make a huge impact. In God's hands, those small little actions can build. And together, when we contribute just a small amount, it can grow, and God can turn small acts into miracles. So for me, that's the verse that I hold.
It's the one small thing we can do that can, and you never know the repercussions of it. And
exactly.
I totally get that. So as you think about your work at PWRDF or the things you're involved in, what are you most excited about right now?
So for me, I'm most excited about right now is more of a personal thing, but I had a baby. So my son is,
that's great.
Thank you. So my son's 60 months now, and he's our first child, and he's our miracle baby because we didn't think we were going to have kids. So this gives me a new perspective on life. And just watching my son discover things, just even the little mundane everyday things, it's just so eye-opening for me. And I'm just so excited to teach my son about giving back to those in need, and how every small act of kindness and compassion can actually build up and create miracles. So for me, now really looking back and reflecting back on that trip to Malawi, I can completely have a whole new perspective of what, that mother was feeling when she was in that situation and dire need of food. And, she wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking of her children. And that's all she cared about, was providing for her children. And so I can understand that feeling of helplessness and concern and worry. And I completely now understand that, because now I have a child and I have those worries for him. I have wonder, like, how am I going to affect his future? What can I do? How can I support him? So for me, I'm just so blessed to be a part of two organizations really that help to fight hunger. And I'm just so excited to be able to share that with him, and hopefully be able to share an experience with him in the future when he's a little bit older, and I could take him to one of the partnerships.
That would be a wonderful thing. It's such an amazing thing to be able to pass this on to the next generation, and to see it from that mother's heart, that totally changes things. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Final question for you, and you've kind of touched on it already in terms of some of the experiences you've had and the things you've said, but what do you like most about being a member of the Foodgrains Bank?
Yeah, I love the fact that Canadian Foodgrains Bank partner with local organizations to lift up people. So I think that's really important, because they're able to leverage the money raised that's donated by Canadians and all of the organizations. And they're able to not only support local businesses and the economy in the countries that they help, but they're also able to save on shipping, because they're not sending stuff from Canada overseas. So you're not having to worry about that money not going towards, all of the money going towards helping people, and it's also really great because we're not sending stuff that other people aren't used to eating. So they actually get what they would normally eat. And so I think that's really important to help those people and help in such a great manner like that. So, and one other thing I just want to, because I was an educator for a really long time, is that I'm going to throw in a bonus one, is that I love how Canadian Foodgrains Bank helps to educate people as well.
Lillian, you're so right. We are so grateful for the work of members like PWRDF. We can only do this work through you and the staff you have both here in Canada and the partners you have on the ground. So we're just so grateful to be in partnership with you in these education programs, in fighting poverty, and in our mission to end hunger. So thanks so much for being with us today, Lillian. It's been an absolute privilege to hear about you and the work of PWRDF. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. And I'm so glad I got to do this because I love Canadian Foodgrains Bank and I love the Primates World Relief and Development Fund. So
Thanks very much. Goodbye, everyone.
thank you. Have a wonderful day.